Dear students, today we will discuss Sommerfield's theory of hydrogen atom. Sommerfield modified and improved Bohr's theory of hydrogen atom. We know that there were several demerits in Bohr's theory, and one of the major drawback of Bohr's theory was that it failed to explain the fine structure of hydrogen atom. Fine structure means other than the prominent lines like Balmer lines, like Lyman lines, there are several other lines which are very fine, actually of low intensity. Those were also found in hydrogen spectra. That is why those lines were called the fine structure of hydrogen atom. What was the origin of those fine lines? That was the question, and which was not answered by Bohr's theory. Sommerfield and Wilson, they made some advancement so that these questions were answered. Number one. Number two is Sommerfield also considered the relativistic considerations. We will see it later. And as we go on, we see that Sommerfield, Wilson and Sommerfield, their theory, they were able to make a bridge between Planck's oscillators and Bohr's electron. Actually, the quantized frequency of Planck's oscillators and quantized angular momentum of Bohr. They appear to be different things, but from Sommerfield theory, it appeared that Planck's theory and Bohr's theory came from same origin actually. Now, what was the theory? If we proceed, we just see that from our knowledge of classical mechanics, you must remember that at that point of time, quantum mechanics was not ready. It was not discovered at all, and in fact, it discovered almost after 10 years of Sommerfield's theory. And in classical mechanics, we know that according to classical mechanics, as the electron moves in the field of the nucleus, that means under Coulomb attraction, and therefore the force is proportional to r square. That means force is directed towards the nucleus, therefore it is a central. The potential is central potential, the force is central force. And we have studied central force, we have studied Kepler's laws, and we know that under a central force, inverse square force, an elliptical orbit is a general consideration than a circular orbit. Bohr considered circular orbit, but an elliptical orbit is more general. But before we go, we just see the theory of Planck's oscillator in a different point of view, as we have already seen it before, but now the point of view is different. The energy of the oscillator, we consider it a linear harmonic oscillator, so it is definitely kinetic energy, this part, and this part is potential energy, you know. And what happens? Just for this d2x, dt2 plus omega square x equals 0. That is the equation of motion as you know it, and you solve as x equal to a sin omega t, or a e to the power I omega t, or plus b to the power minus I omega t, and whatever way you solve it, you can write the energy as the in terms of p and x, of momentum and position. P square by 2m is the kinetic energy part, and this is the potential energy part, this part. So just you reorient the equation to write it in this form. Now you look in the equation that if we write q in place of x, where q is just a general coordinate and p is the corresponding momentum, that means P comes from x. If you derive x and then multiply by mass, or in some way or other you get P, and just Q is a generalized coordinate. It may be x, maybe r, whatever, or that means in Cartesian system or spherical system, whatever. So this is the more general equation. Q replaces x here, and P is the momentum, and as I said, it is a conjugate momentum. Now, if you compare this equation as x square by a square plus y square by b square equals 1, then you obtain an ellipse. So this is an ellipse of standard form, x square by a square plus y square by b square. A is the major axis, b is the minor axis, and in this case also you obtain an ellipse. And note that this ellipse is not the path of anything. This ellipse is not path of anything. This is the diagram, the relationship between Q and P, position and momentum. It means if a particle has this amount of position, this value of position, then it will have this amount of momentum. That is the meaning of this. So it defines a trajectory, the position and the momentum, and the PQ space, the PQ plane is known as the phase space. Here the particle number is 1 for an oscillator. So this space has one Q and one P. If there are n number of particles, then there will be 3n number of position coordinates, x1, y1, z1, x2, y2, z2, x3, y3, z3. And for each position coordinate, there will be a conjugate momentum, say px1, py1, pz1, py1, py2, pz1, pz2, and so on. For each position coordinate, there will be a conjugate momentum. Then it will be a 6n dimensional space. You will learn it in great detail when you study classical mechanics and statistical mechanics. The Hamiltonian formulation of classical mechanics and then statistical mechanics. But you must note the term phase space. You will face this term and many things from it later. So, what is the area of this ellipse? I just repeat, do not mix it with any elliptical orbit. In fact, remember here we are dealing with an oscillator, a linear oscillator which travels along a line. It is not the path of any particle. It is not the path of any particle. So what is the area of this ellipse? Definitely the area of this ellipse is integration p dq y dx. That will be here, it will be p dq, and the area of this ellipse will be pi into a into b. A is the semi-major axis, b is the semi-minor axis. So here also we need to determine the semi-major axis and semi-minor axis, and we see that from comparison a square equals, that means square of semi-major axis this one, and square of semi-minor axis equal to this one. So from the area of the ellipse pi into a into b, we obtain for our ellipse PQ, it is J equals this expression. Now we see that omega by 2 pi equals nu. Bring this 2 pi in the denominator, so it will be E by omega by 2 pi, that means E by nu. This is the integral. This is actually also known as the action integral, in fact. However, this area of the ellipse, Planck assumed that this energy of the oscillator is quantized. It was Planck's oscillation, and as E was proportional to nu, so E will be equal to n into h into nu, where n is an integer. So we replace E equals nh nu here, and we see that the area is quantized. So out of all classical ellipses in PQ space here, only certain ellipses are possible. Not all ellipses are possible. only those ellipses are possible under which the area is NH, right? H or 2H or 3H. Here is a diagram. That means these discrete ellipses are the states of the oscillator, quantized states. That means the state at which the oscillator can have that particular value of frequency, the quantized frequency. And just if you analyze it, the diagram, you will see that area under the first ellipse, that means with OA major axis, semi-major axis OA, definitely n equals 1, therefore its area equal to H. Similarly, if you increase, say, then 2H, OA is 2H, OB semi-major axis, then the area is OB is up to this part, I'm sorry, this part is OC, and so on, H, 2H, 3H, 4H, etc. As you go on increasing, it is written here. And no intermediate ellipse is possible, and area between two successive ellipses is also H. You see, OB semi-major axis, the area is 2H, and OA, the area is H. That means the area of this white region is H. Similarly, the area of this shaded region is also H, and so on. So, energy is released or absorbed when a particle changes its path from one ellipse to other ellipse. The particle, initially it is at, say, at this position. If it absorbs energy, it takes this elliptical path. So, in that case, some energy is absorbed. And it is other way around. From this one, if it comes down to this elliptical path, the path changes and energy is released. Therefore, the energy is also quantized. So, from the action integral, quantization of Planck's oscillator comes out. Now, Wilson and Sommerfeld, they propose their quantization theory. In Bohr's model, the electron was supposed to travel in a circular orbit. We know it, but as we see it at the first of this lecture, that in a central force, the general path is an ellipse. So, in Bohr's orbit, the path was circular. That means radius is fixed and only the angle changes, theta changes, and the particle therefore had only 1 degree of freedom. Only 1 degree of freedom. But when path becomes ellipse, 2 degrees of freedom are there. One is this radius, this is the length radius. If the path is elliptical, here you see it. E is the focus where the nucleus is supposed to be, and this is the position of the electron. This is the position of the electron, any arbitrary position, and this distance is r. Electron to nucleus. Nucleus is there in the focus. You can also draw a similar diagram keeping the other focus. It is possible. And you see this distance is r, and you see the unit vector r is along this way, and this is angle phi, and everything else you understand. This is in this direction, actually the unit vector phi changes. This is unit vector phi. You might struggle to read it, so I tell you that this is unit vector phi. And the potential energy is, I have just made a mistake here. It is minus z square by 4 pi epsilon 0 r. It is minus z square by 4 pi epsilon 0 r. Get a correction here. This is 4 pi epsilon 0 r, z square by 4 pi epsilon 0 r, and kinetic energy half m r dot square plus f m r square phi dot square. You know it very much. And therefore, we see for two coordinates r and phi, the conjugate moment are pr and p phi. We know that pr equals mr dot, p phi equals to mr square phi dot. Everything, these are known things. And now they are applied. Wilson and Sommerfeld postulated that each degree of freedom are to be quantized. In Bohr's equation, only p phi was quantized, pr was fixed, and Wilson and Sommerfeld, their proposition was that each degree of freedom are to be quantized. And from this diagram, we will need these things later. Just check that if eccentricity of the ellipse is E, or say whatever, let us read it E, then the semi-minor axis will be B equals, this is the semi-major axis A. Then if A is there, AQ, then semi-minor axis, the perihelion position, that means this position, this is the perihelion position where the electron is nearest to the nucleus, and the aphelion position, this one where the electron is at the farthest distance from the nucleus. Now we just proceed to see that the quantum conditions for an electron as they quantized, so they are PRDR. This is also quantized, as we see in the case of Planck's oscillator. We did it there as PDQ, Q was generalized. So here instead of Q we use R. So the conjugate momentum is PR, as we have written it. In respect of R it is PR, in respect of phi it is P phi. So these two are quantization conditions. Integration PR dr equal to nr into h. Nr is an integer, and P phi d phi integrated gives us kh, where k is an integer and k is known as the azimuthal quantum number. Azimuthal quantum number. It has extreme importance. We will see it later. Now P phi, it is the angular coordinate. We know it. So, and we also see it from here. P phi is the angular momentum, and you know, in case of central force, here it is an elliptical orbit. In case of a central force, angular momentum is conserved. It is known. So P phi is a constant. So you take P phi out of this integration, integrate over phi from 0 to 2 pi to obtain P phi into 2 pi. It means P phi equals kh by 2 pi. This is, you look just, this is the angular momentum quantization law of Bohr, this thing. So we see that Sommerfeld's theory, this kind of quantization, PdQ, integration over all, explains the quantum conditions of both Planck and Bohr. We just see it. Now how this quantization, integration over PR dr equal to nrh, how is this evaluated? You have to do some algebra here. I do not read this algebra, but I just tell you the features. You know the polar equation of an ellipse. In case of from central force, you can derive it using R and phi. You write an equation of the ellipse, and then you just carry out this algebra. This algebra is totally done here. I do not read the algebra. You just follow, and ultimately you will see that I just tell you one integration will come, which is a kind of e square sin square phi by 1 plus e cos phi whole square. You can try to evaluate it in many ways. I have done it in one way, and you can also use in fact you will need to use integration by parts, and that also you can do it in many ways. I have done it in one method, and another possible method is hinted here in this part. And one more thing I tell you, that there is another integration which we will need to evaluate, and I tell you to do it on your own. You will need to do it. The result is given here. This is the result, you understand. But one hint I give you, that you have to change the limit from 0 to pi. So this integration will be 0 to pi. You can and multiplied by 2. So you just wipe this 2 off, remove this t 2, and integrate in this way. This will be done because you will be able to use the even function property of this function 1, your function under integration is actually 1 by 1 plus e cos phi, which is an even function. So you have to apply it and you have to solve it. You can do it. And after integration, you will just see that one condition will come out. This is the important thing, that from this quantization, two quantization conditions will come. Nr by k, these are two quantum numbers, plus 1 equals this expression, and solve it. Nr plus k divided by k, and we name it as n. This n is the principal quantum number. We will see it. This is known as the principal quantum number. And from the ellipse, we know that if we go to the initial diagram, from here we see that the relation between b and a is a by b equals 1 by root over 1 minus square. So if you go on here, it is written from ellipse. We know that the a by b ratio is given this way, and we also see that this is the ratio n by k. So n by k, these two quantum numbers define the ratio between the major axis and minor axis. Actually, this means these two quantum numbers give us the shape of the ellipse. And we see that it is a condition for quantized ellipses. Any ellipse is not allowed. Only those ellipses are allowed for which the ratio of the major axis to minor, a by b, or 2a by 2b is the major axis to minor axis, means equal, it is a by b. So the ratio between major axis and minor axis is the ratio of two integers. And you don't think any integer is allowed. Any integer will not be allowed. So these integers also have some restrictions. And this n is known as the principal quantum number, and we know that k is the azimuthal quantum number. So what kind of restrictions are there? We know that the major axis is bigger than the minor axis, and when they are equal, it becomes a circle. That is, when b equal to a, then k is equal to n. In case of a circular orbit, therefore k equals n. And we see that what are the, as k is less than n and k is an integer, so let us assume k equals, say, 4. So what are the let us assume n equal to 4. N equals 4. So what are the possible values of k? It will be definitely, it is allowed that k equals n, so it can be 4 or less than n, that, and integer, that means 3, 2, 1 and 0. So for n equal to 4, k equals 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But as p phi, you know, is kh by 2 pi, so k equals 0 means that p phi equals 0. That is a critical thing. P phi equals 0 means there is no angular momentum, that means it is a linear motion. So electron passes through a straight line which connects the nucleus, which is not allowed. Therefore k equal to 0 is not allowed. It is, we see it is, therefore k starts from 1. And for example, if k equals 4, then if n equals 4, then k equals 1, 2, 3, 4. And therefore nr, the quantum number from the the action integral, integration over pr dr equal to nr into h, we see that nr equals n minus k. So nr will be, if k equals 1, nr will be n minus 1, k equals 2, nr will be n minus 2. And if k equals n, then nr becomes 0. But still I see that separately nr does not carry any important meaning. Physically important things are n and k, the principal quantum number and the azimuthal quantum number. And then we calculate the energy of the electron according to Sommerfield's theory. And En is the energy of the electron in the nth orbit, you see that potential energy is corrected here, z square by 4 pi epsilon 0 r. Now I just tell you to follow the algebra. I do not read the algebra, everything is written, and finally you see the result as energy comes out to be this expression. Equation number 19 as mz square e to the power 4 by 8 epsilon 0 h square into 1 by n square. So this is a very funny thing because it is exactly the same relation which came from Bohr's equation, where n was the orbit number of from Bohr's theory, and it was circular in nature. Though Sommerfeld assumed elliptical orbits, still it came out to be the same result. And I need to draw your attention on another point, that is this expression. This is the expression for the semi-major axis, or you multiply it by 2 to obtain the major axis. Epsilon 0 into n square h square, you see that the major axis varies as n square. So as n increases, n equals 1, n equals 2, then the major axis increases, and as square of n. And if you change the atom itself, in place of hydrogen, if you want to see helium plus, hydrogen like helium, then Z changes, and in that case the major axis varies as 1 by Z. That means if Z increases, A will decrease. This is an important point to note. And you see from the I just go back to the previous expression, we see that for a particular n there are several k values. That means one n will correspond to n number of k values. We just check for n equal to 4, k equals 1, 2, 3, 4. So for each n there will be n number of k values. For n equal to 4, there will be 4 number of k values, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And each nk set will correspond to a different orbit. n4 k1, n4 k2, n4 k3. All these are ellipses, but with different major axis and minor axis. This point to be noted, not for different major axis. Major axis will be same, minor axis will change, we will see it. And the last n equal to 4, k equal to 4 will give you the circular path for which major axis will be equal to minor axis. From here we guess as k increases, the value of minor axis increases, and finally when k equal to n, it becomes same with the major axis. The major axis everywhere remains same. We see it from equation number 18, expression 18, that the major axis has dependence only on n and not on k. Major axis has a dependence on n as n square, it depends as n square, and no dependence on k. Therefore, for each k value corresponding to one n, the major axis do not change. This is a very important point. Thus, we see that no dependence on azimuthal quantum number k is found for energy also. En also does not depend on k. So what is the role of K? K simply plays the role of defining the shape of the elliptical orbit. Here is just one diagram for you. I have taken it from the book of White, Introduction to Atomic Spectra. This is the phase space diagram. If you study the Bohr's electron, phi changes and p phi changes, you see the circular, these are actually circular paths, and this is the phase space diagram according to Sommerfeld. This one is the phase space diagram, and this one is the phase space diagram due to Sommerfeld. Just have a look at it, and each area I mentioned that each area here and here, they are of same amount of area, and the intermediate area are also same, as we see from the oscillator phase space diagram. Now this is just for your information. You can try to have a look, but don't stick here. This is my advice. You will learn it in a better way when you study phase space diagram. And now we discuss the degeneracy of energy values. As I have just told, for a given n, there are n number of possible k values, n number of possible values of k. So, and this is example given here. Here the example is given with 3, n equals to 3, so k equals 1, 2, 3. And as I have told you, A does not depend on anything. A has no dependence on k, A has dependence only on n square. But if k changes, A does not change. Whereas you note that if k changes from a previous expression, you see, if k changes from this expression, if k changes, then the eccentricity E of the ellipse changes. And as we know that B depends on eccentricity, from this equation again we know that B depends on eccentricity. Eccentricity depends on k. Eccentricity here, it depends on k. You keep your n fixed and change your k value. So this eccentricity E will change, and then B will change, but A will not change. Now you come back here. So each k value defines, just take a correction, there is no S. Each k value defines a different orbit. What is the energy? In all orbits belonging to same n are same. Energies depend on only n, but there are k values. So this is definitely a degenerate system. A degeneracy actually means different states with some property having same value. The states are different, situations are different, maybe functions are different, but if you measure a particular property corresponding to each state or each situation or each function, that particular property will have same value for each state. That means one, say here, same energy, one value of energy corresponds to different k sets. Each k state defines a new ellipse. Each k value corresponding to a fixed n. N is fixed to change k. Each k value defines a new ellipse, but everywhere the energy is same, because energy does not depend on k. Energy is same. This is called degeneracy. So this is a degenerate system. This, for example, how the orbit is changed. For n equal to 3, k may be 3, and therefore if E becomes E square is 0, it's a circle, and the combination is 3, 2, k equals 2, then it's an ellipse with square equal to 5 by 9. If k equals 1, square equal to 8 by 9. And in every case, b changes, a does not change. And it is written here that from equation 18, that is the expression for a semi-major axis, it is where is that here? It is seen that the radius of the circle, which corresponds to k equal to 3 in the example, this is just for the example, and the semi-major axis of the ellipses k equal to 2 and 1 are same. And as I have said that a is proportional to n square and proportional to 1 by z. Similarly, using 11, that means b by a equal to k by n, you see that now b equal to a into k by n, and a is proportional to n square, so b will be proportional to n into k, and similarly b will be proportional to 1 by z. So I just take an example here, cite an example here, which is taken from the book of White. You see, this is n equal to 1, just n equal to 1 means k equals 1, a circular orbit. For n equal to 2, it is k equal to 2 means circular orbit. Here it is written 2, 2, and it is written the 1 is elliptical orbit, 2, 1. And this is the, in both cases, the major axis of the ellipse or radius of the circle is same. And the electron, remember, in case of a circular orbit, electron comes in the focus, in the center, in case of a circular orbit. But in case of an elliptical orbit, electron becomes the nucleus. I am sorry. The nucleus comes in the center of the circle, and electron is in the outside orbit. And in case of an elliptical orbit, the electron is definitely in the on the elliptical path, and nucleus is on one of the foci. One focus here, the nucleus may be here, or nucleus may be there. And similar for n equals 3, you will obtain k equal to 1, 2, 3. K equals 3 means you get a circle here, 3, 3. And k equals 2, that means one ellipse. And k equals 3 means another ellipse. You see, a remains same here, but b changes. The major ellipse gets kind of narrow in when k is, the b becomes very small. B is this stretch, you know, b is this stretch, and this is the minor axis. So minor axis shrinks, becomes smaller if k is smaller. And similar for n equal to 4. Here I don't repeat, but this is for hydrogen. There is a comparative diagram for, say, helium plus. As you know that the major axis A is proportional to Z, and in case of helium Z equals 2, therefore the major axis or the radius of the circular orbit is half in case of nucleus as compared to what is there in case of hydrogen. So put Z equal to 1 for hydrogen, you obtain some A value, keeping all other things same. If you draw the 1s of helium plus hydrogen like helium, then it will be half of hydrogen because Z becomes 2. And it will be in case of lithium plus, this is lithium double plus, hydrogen like lithium, it will be 1/3 of the radius of hydrogen. And everywhere here, you see this diagram, this radius is double of the helium 2s, or helium 2s circular orbit 2p, this one is 2p, and the 2 value, n equal to 2, k equal to 2 value, this radius in case of helium is half of the 2 radius of hydrogen, and for lithium the 2 n equal to 2, k equal to radius is 1/3 of n equal to 2, k equal to radius of hydrogen. And for other elliptical cases, that same half or 1/3 relation for helium plus or lithium 2 plus will be maintained corresponding to the major axis of the elliptical path. That is the discussion on the quantization of orbits, Wilson-Sommerfeld quantization conditions. Actually, what we learned, that we learned both degrees of freedom r and phi, they are quantized, and from where we obtain two quantum numbers corresponding to each degree of freedom. One is the principal quantum number and the other one is the azimuthal quantum number. But we see that though the particles, the electrons describe elliptical path, in certain conditions the ellipse becomes a circle, but the energy corresponding to a particular principal quantum number n, energy remains same for all possible paths, circular or elliptical, whatever. And Sommerfeld made another very important contribution. You again see from the energy expression, as we see above, that it is same as what was obtained from Bohr's theory. Therefore, it is clear that the initial problem of Bohr's theory, that the fine structure of hydrogen atom spectrum were not explained, the problem remains same, because Sommerfeld's theory, Wilson-Sommerfeld's theory, they yield same energy value. The fine structure problem is still not solved. Then Sommerfeld came up with a very important proposition, that is the concept of relativistic electron. And he considered that as the velocity of the electron is high and we cannot directly neglect it as compared to the velocity of light, therefore the mass of the electron should not be taken as its rest mass, but we need to consider its relativistic mass. That means in the expression previously here, this mass had was only the relative non-relativistic mass, that means the rest mass of the electron, but this mass will change if the velocity of the electron changes excessive, becomes very high, and this mass actually increases. So then its mass will be m naught equal to 1 minus v square by c square, where m naught is the rest mass. If you see v is very small as compared to c, then you neglect v square by c square term and m becomes m naught. So which is the non-relativistic result, as just we have seen. Again, you know, in the from Kepler's laws etc., in case of central force, that imagine this is the nucleus of position of the nucleus, and in this point, which is the perihelion, the electron is closer, so it will have a very high velocity. It will have a very high velocity here, and it will have a in the perihelion, and in the aphelion it will have a small velocity. So there will be, the velocity is smaller as compared to, so there is a change in velocity, means there will be a change in mass. Relativistically, there will be a change in mass. If the velocity changes, then the mass will change, and if the mass changes, then the energy value changes. Therefore, there are certain things needed to be considered according to relativistic considerations. We have not done this thing in detail, and because this is not needed, the mathematics is really exhaustive. But with all these effects, I come to the diagram later. With all these effects, we see that the energy correction becomes as this one. The first term is mz square E4 by 8 epsilon 0 square n square a square into 1. That means this is the first term. This is the non-relativistic term. Another term comes out to be this term. This is the relativistic correction term. And here another here comes another constant, alpha comes, e square by 2 epsilon 0 hc. It is a fundamental constant known as the fine structure constant. In atomic units, this is where alpha is 1 by 137. This is nothing. This is 137. Don't treat it as a point. No, this is just some mark of pen. Actually, it is 1 by 137. Atomic units means where mass of electron, rest mass of electron m naught, charge of electron 4 pi 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0, all of them are treated as 1. And h by 2 pi, which is called the reduced Planck constant and read as h cross by h cut by h bar, whatever. H by 2 pi is also equal to 1 in case of atomic units. You will see it later. It is alpha is a dimensionless quantity. In fact, it can be shown that energy value of hydrogen atom can be expanded in a series actually of increasing powers of alpha. Here alpha power of alpha is 0 in this term alpha square, and in other terms it will be alpha to the power 4 and so on. So it's a power series expansion. Therefore alpha is called kind of the strength of the potential, kind of like that. You will see it later. And from equation 20 we see that the K degeneracy is also removed. K degeneracy means the energy in non-relativistic case was not dependent on K. Therefore whatever be the K value corresponding to a particular n, the energy was fixed. It was called the K degeneracy. The K degeneracy, it is removed if you use this expression, because you see K comes here, this is K comes here in the expression. So put different values of K and get different values of energy. So it is En K written here. In non-relativistic cases we used the subscript En, the symbol En, to denote that energy depends on N only. Here energy depends on N and K both. And if you see it, just a diagram is given here. If you see that this is the non-relativistic level n equal to 3, then it splits in relativistic cases for k equal to 1, k equal to 2, k equal to 3, different cases. Another thing is that for n equal to 2, it is k equal to 1, k equal to 2. There is one error here, actually not error, this is during taking the diagram, the picture, this has been cropped I think. So there will be delta k, change in delta k during transition is actually plus minus 1. This 1 is missed here, so there is a 1 here, plus minus 1. So 3 levels are split for n equal to 3, 2 levels are split for n equal to 2, and now delta k, the change of k equal to 3 to 2 is allowed, 2 to 1 is allowed, even 1 to 2, that is also allowed. But from 2, k equal to 2 to n equal to 2, this is not allowed. So it will not be there. K equal to 1, from here k equal to 1, this one is also not allowed. But we do not read it. We will see it later in higher courses. These are known as the selection rule. And Sommerfield's theory was able to explain these lines. These are the fine structure lines actually, some of the fine structure lines, not all, part of the fine structure lines. Some part was still not explained. So it is written here that we see from Sommerfield's theory that part of the fine structure is explained, and the limitation therefore is that the other part of the fine structure, that means a total fine structure is not explained. Another thing is that there are other limitations also. In case of many electron atoms, the theory was not able to solve everything. In case of spin, which came later, the spin of electron was not also accounted in Sommerfield's theory, and so on. But however, it is to note that Sommerfield's theory of quantization of both degrees of freedom, and from there the evolution of elliptical orbits, and then the relativistic correction gave a huge very big expansion, huge success actually it got not all, but up to certain extent, very accurate predictions of the results were made. Accurate explanations were also made. So at that point of time, it was a great success. But finally, when the quantum mechanics came, everything was explained in other way. And one point to note here, that when you consider the variation of velocities in different positions, it is seen that the electron moves in an elliptical path. That is correct. But the major axis of the electron, the major axis of the ellipse, that gets a rotation every time. Once it completes one revolution, you see the major axis is changing. So the major axis gets a rotation in the same plane, in the plane of the ellipse. And this rotation happens with one of the foci along about an axis which passes through one of the foci. And this kind of path of electron is called a rosette. So this is known as the rosette structure. As you see it, this is known as the rosette structure. So Sommerfeld's theory gives us a lot of information about the hydrogen atom. Still, we will need the quantum mechanics to have a complete idea of hydrogen atom. I end here.